I'd like to call this meeting of the Morgan County Planning Commission to order. It's Thursday, January 9th, 2025. We'd like to excuse Member McMillan, and Member Bishop should be here shortly, and we have Member Maloney that will be joining us remotely. To begin our meeting, I've asked Member Murray to offer a word of prayer, and if you all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Discuss matters of the county. We thank thee for the blessings of living in this land, for the blessings of this land, and the responsibilities that we have. We pray that thou will guide us tonight to ask questions that will help us to make the best decisions for the members of this county. And bless the leaders of this nation and the world, that they will lead us and guide us in a manner that is pleasing unto thee. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for that? We have a motion by Member Murray. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Member Little. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Declaration of conflicts of interest for any commission members with any item on the agenda tonight. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to public comment. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone out tonight. We have one administrative item, and that will not have its separate public hearing. So if you wish to speak on the McGregor Small Subdivision Preliminary Final Plat, your time will be during the public comment time. We won't have an opportunity to speak during the meeting on that item. However, we have two legislative items. We have the Love rezone. We also have a text amendment for group homes. Each one of those items will have their separate public hearing. So if you have a comment on that, we request that you wait until that time to make your comment. And when you do speak, please come up to the lectern and state your name and speak clearly into the mic so recording can pick it up. So we'll now have public comment time. Anyone's has, or you can address the commission on any other item. Okay, no, the love will be during the public hearing. Okay, seeing none, we will move on. This is a discussion decision on the McGregor Small Subdivision Preliminary Final Plat.
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. The first item on the agenda is items is the McGregor Small Subdivision Preliminary and Final Plat. That is application 24.070. The applicant is Tanner Bingham, and Madam Chair, the applicant is present in the audience tonight. The location for the project is 1180 West Old Highway Road. The vicinity map showing the approximate location, and the next exhibit showing the zoning map, split almost in half by RR1, which is rural residential, 1 acre minimum in the front half of the lot, the parcel. Excuse me, and the back half, or the color there showing the MU160, which is a multiple use zone. The request tonight, Madam Chair, is for approval of a preliminary and final plat for a two-lot subdivision. What would effectively happen is as you can see in the plat there, the property already has an existing dwelling on it, a few hundred feet up the property there. And the creation of a new lot towards the frontage of West Old Highway Road would be a new lot, but again, a two-lot subdivision. Lot 2 would have approximately 1.75 acreage, that acreage being chosen, of course, to satisfy the Weaver Morgan Health Department and their requirements for minimum acreage for well and septic. The staff report contains a bit of an error, perhaps a misunderstanding, that the applicant was hoping to do a shared well. That is not the case, and I'd like to address that now, that there will be a separate well. A letter of feasibility that staff has on file, of course, certifies the feasibility of the location of a new well on Lot 2, the new lot, with the accompanying leach fields. And the applicant, in discussions with staff, learned that he doesn't exactly need to dig a well at this point in order to bring a plat before the commission. He has the necessary water rights in his name and can dig the well at a later date. That said, a review is conducted, Madam Chair, according to our minimum code requirements for subdividing. Specifically, we looked at the flag lots. That's a new set of standards from last year. So to be clear, Lot 1, which contains the original home and the original driveway, will be the new flag lot, Madam Chair, and Lot 2 will have all of its frontage coming from West Old Highway Road. That said, the staff is happy to answer questions from any member of the commission. Thank you.
Any questions for staff?
I have a couple for you, Jeremy. So if I understand correctly, the sewer leach fields, the two down there, that would supply both,
Nope, Lot 2.
just lot two? Okay.
Well and septic are existing for the current original parcel.
Then, second question, just for my edification. It's a flag lot because it's less than 200 feet on the road frontage,
It is a flag
even though
lot.
it's 75 feet?
It is a flag lot because the flag pole portion, the small portion, has a minimum width of 36 feet. Approximately, it's something like, and I'm not prepared to, 75 feet. Continue your staff
That's
report.
what I was saying. It's 75 feet, so to be designated R1, it would at least have to have a 200-foot
I
frontage.
suppose anywhere between 36 feet, which is the same as the length of or width of a private street, a private lane rather, and 200 feet. Anywhere between that
Okay,
is
it's
a flag.
flag.
Is a flag.
And then why are we not rezoning and getting rid of the MU 160 out of the thing?
It's an existing lot with existing entitlements, and the Lot 2 would be entirely contained within the RR1 portion. No need for a rezone in this case.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Or for the applicant? Maddie, do you have any questions?
No, I do not have any questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
If there's no further questions, I'm ready for a motion.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
I move we approve the McGregor Small Subdivision Preliminary and Final Plat, application number 24.070, allowing for a two-lot subdivision of land located at approximately 1180 West Old Highway Road, based on the findings and with the conditions listed in the staff report dated January 9, 2025.
I have a motion by Member Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Member Bishop. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's unanimous. We move on to our next item, number 7. This is the Love rezone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application 24.071 is the Love rezone, approximately located at 860 South Morgan Valley Drive. The current zoning is A20, And in fact, that's the future land use map up on your screen, but there actually appears to be a small smidgen of MU 160 on the western border of the property. The acreage, though, totaled between 4 parcels, which it almost looks like there's only 3 depicted there, but there's a smaller parcel right abutting against South Morgan Valley Drive that is part of the request tonight, Madam Chair. The acreage being 80.52 acres. The request that was advertised is a rezone from A20 to RR1 with an applicable future land use map amendment to reflect that from agriculture to rural residential 1. Commissioners, that's what's in your staff report in your meeting packet tonight. I note a lot of members of the public here tonight, and I would like to actually head off some misunderstanding. If you'll turn to the second page of the staff report that contains the analysis header at the top, general plan and zoning subheading. In that is contained the applicant's narrative when they submitted the application. And I'll actually read that. It says a rezone would allow for a subdivision that would address the lack of frontage present for the 3 parcels. And the owner would like to build a home, and the zoning change would allow the property owner to enjoy similar development rights as their neighbors currently enjoy. But there's actually language present in the application that might not be present here in the staff report that basically was just asking for a rezone from A20 to RR1. The context that I would like to provide tonight stems from conversations with the applicant more than a year and a half ago. Those conversations talked about the funny parcel, the smaller parcel, I think it's 0.7 acres, how that seems to interrupt frontage, but that could be chalked up to something like a map error. Either way, when we talk about the issue of frontage alone and South Morgan Valley Drive, what can be done to develop that property, the advice from staff at that time was a rezone to have the tunnel zoning that's present all up Morgan Valley Drive and down, as well as on the other side of the valley on Highway 66, you have approximately about an acre of RR1 present on the property, with A20 spanning as many as multiple acres, thereby providing the tunnel zoning, sometimes known as a split zone. So the applicant's request actually was not to rezone all to RR1. Rather, the applicant's request tonight, and having a misunderstanding cleared up with staff and staff gaining a better understanding of the applicant's proposal, the request tonight, Madam Chair, is to rezone to have some RR1 tunnel zoning as frontage. That said, staff provided conducted a review of the applicant's request, found that RR1 zoning is adjacent across the road, thereby present and nearby. The future land use map does show the exact same zoning designation, but staff would would recommend approval of a rezone to tunnel zoning for the request tonight, Madam Chair. The applicant is in the audience, Madam Chair, and staff is happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Yeah, can you help us see what they want as RR1 and then what they want to leave untouched or unchanged?
Yep. So if you look at the map that I've put up on the screens, tunnel zoning is on both sides of the road to the north, and then it stops on the west side, but continues south on the east, and then past these parcels, it picks up again on the west. So what he's asking is for the tunnel zoning to be added to his property, similar to what's across the street.
Question. Tunnel zoning, how far does that come off the road? Is it measured off the center or off the edge of the road? And how many feet?
It varies depending on where you are in the county. 200 by 250 is approximately 1 acre. That was probably the intent. So we would request 250 feet deep along the frontage of his parcels to address the tunnel zoning.
So each parcel is basically the same width along frontage?
So RR1 zoning requires lots to have 200 feet of frontage. So 200 feet of frontage plus times the 250 deep is approximately 1 acre.
Right, and each parcel's got that 200.
Well, he's not creating any new parcels right now.
No, but
Um,
we're rezoning, or the request is to rezone a portion of those parcels, right?
The request is to add tunnel zoning to his property, similar to what's across the street.
He could subdivide later into the.
Right, no, I understand that, I just didn't, do whatever dimensions are to meet the minimum lot size
Yeah.
of that zone. And then the remainder
Dr.
of those
Jeremy,
parcels
I have a
would be,
question. Oh, sorry.
Hold on, Blaine was asking a question.
that the remainder of those parcels would stay with the current zoning.
Yeah, the parcels would be split zone.
Okay, Maddie?
Yeah, this is not maybe as relevant even just for this application, but just in general, can you clarify the county or state minimum for septic and well hookups? Is it 1.75 or is it 1.5?
Weber Morgan Health Department
1.75.
sorry, Weber Morgan Health Department says that throughout their jurisdiction they require between 1 and 1.75 acres depending on soil and percolation rates. However, I've been told by Weber Morgan Health Department that because of the soils here in Morgan County, it's typically closer to 1.75.
Okay, but it could vary. That's good to know. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It can vary, but I haven't seen it vary in Morgan County yet. It's pretty consistent here.
Okay,
Jeremy, the argument for the tunnel zoning, I understand because it's adjacent, but then what is preventing the applicant coming back later and saying, okay, well, now that I've got this RR1 zoning here on the road, I'd like my A20 to be shifted over to RR1 as well?
Every rezone application is a case-by-case basis. Every single one. So the request for tonight is for tunnel zoning. He could do that. He could not do that.
Not only that, but a legislative action, which is a rezoning, can be denied.
Thank you.
any more questions for staff?
I have a couple. Probably make sure you guys looked at this. Have you guys looked at this at all? Have you gone and looked at the property that they're asking to develop? The reason I ask is along there's a ditch. I don't know how Adams is going to get his lots. It's just a curiosity. Have you looked at it? Have they mentioned that to you?
So we haven't looked at that since it's the rezoning portion of it, but there's nothing prohibiting him from dividing the land and building the homes behind. The setbacks that we measure are within the zone that the house is located in. So if he divided and had at least 1 acre with RR1 zoning of whatever lot he wants to create, the house could be built in the 820 portion above and behind.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more question. So where these parcels will have split zoning now, how does the entitlements work?
They would have the same entitlements as their neighbors across the street, meaning they'd have the RR1 zoning entitlements as well as the 820.
Okay.
Any more questions for staff before we have the applicant come up?
I don't have no questions right now.
Okay, if the applicant would like to come forward. And please state your name for the record.
I'm Adams Love. My wife and I live in Layton. I've developed one lot in my life. It's a lot we've lived on for 45 years. We bought this property, and we've been up here working. We've got a couple of horses, and when I'm out there working, somebody drives up the road, I'll have no clue who they are, and they wave at me. And my wife and I said, we're going to get out from it. We're under the runway. They're all over 100 decibels. We're the first house below the runway on Ford Lane. And we're done with it. Our grandchildren will cry. And we just want to come up here. I want to build a house up here. Have no desire to develop. I guess there could, with the tunnel zoning, be maybe 3 other lots. We will be, Matt, or Steve, will be off the road a little ways because we got to get a place to build, and it's pretty steep, a lot of that. So we'll be off the road.
Any questions for the applicant?
How do you, it's really none of my business, but I am curious. How do you see this developing up there, Adam? So just if you want to answer, you can. If you don't bother. But
Well, I guess there are a lot of hoops we've got to jump through yet. With the health department, we've got to get water. We'll need to push a road in or a lane in to get to the house that the fire department approves. Build a house that they approve with sprinklers, I guess. And so we'd build our house and live out our life and die.
And is it your-
Buried in the Mountain Green Cemetery. I bought me a spot over there. So.
and again, this is
How much was it?
nothing you have to answer. But are you planning on? Do you see a future where you're going to try and develop more of that?
I think if one of our children, I've already got 2 sons in Morgan, if one of our children would like to build, that might be handy to have somebody close for us as we're getting older. Only one of the remaining 4 has expressed interest in doing that. So I don't know. I don't want to sell any lots. I don't want any neighbors.
It's not
I'm just
it.
like all you guys.
I just was curious. Thank you for answering that.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Well, let's go into public hearing now. So do I have a motion to go into public hearing? Okay, motion by Member Bishop. A second by Member Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now in public hearing. Now is the opportunity for you to come up and address any of your concerns. Please come to the lectern and state your name for the record. Yep.
Sure.
First come, first served.
My name is Edward Olson, and I am the neighbor. I live right next door to the development, well, not I'll call it that. And I have no objection to what he wants to do. I think that's a great idea. There's just something I just want to put on record that maybe you are not aware of. My property is, if you imagine the picture we had up here earlier, if you imagine his property, you know, what he's got, the 80 or so acres, is like a square. I have a little corner of that square that's 20 acres in the southeast corner of that. That's my property. And I'm on a well up there. And my well is about 100 feet off of the street level. And it's 200 feet deep. And that well has very limited flow rate. And we've learned to live with that. And there's no other structures around me at the moment within a mile, I think, or a quarter mile at least, that would compete with my well. And and I, you know, the way my well is, just so you understand why I'm concerned, if I go out in my garden or, you know, out in the lawn and I turn on the water, going to water my lawn like anybody else would, 15 minutes the well is starved and it stops. And I have to wait about an hour for it to refill or more. And we've learned to live with that. So the point is, there is a water table problem up there if houses are put around it. And I just want to go on record to make, if whatever you're doing, whatever you're going to do, even if it happens in the future, I know this is kind of premature because it's not a, you know, it's not a, you know, you're not even planning to build anything within this meeting at the point. But I need to go on record that whatever the plans are, that I don't want to be sitting there in a couple of years or whatever with, hey, surprise, my well went dry. You know, so something has got to be done to make sure that does not happen. So that's really all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
My name is Gwen Rich, and my husband Roger and I live in the community of Richville. And we own 13 acres across the street, Morgan Valley Drive, where this rezone request is located. And I appreciate that maybe there was some misunderstanding with what we were all told, 80 acres RR1, and that's why you see all of us here tonight. And I just kind of want to address the planning employees and their take on it, my take on their take when I went in to visit with them yesterday. And I spoke to Jeremy, I didn't speak to Josh, but 2 or 3 years ago, I served on the Richville-Porterville Master Plan Committee, and at that time, the consensus of the people was to keep the current zoning in place and not to increase the density to preserve our rural community. So the request of 80 acres to RR1 was quite upsetting. And I went in to talk to the planning staff, and I was very concerned and disappointed because yesterday, when I talked with them, they told me that they were going to come out in support of this rezone request that we all thought was going to be presented. And they know full well that the community of Richville would be opposed to this. And when I questioned Jeremy, he stated that there was precedence for RR1 zoning in the area, and he pointed it out to me, the map that shows the RR1 zone on the east side of the road, and he said that that was the precedence to allow the whole 80 acres. And I thought the comparison between that was just foolish and unreasonable. A very few years ago, if a request came to the planning and zoning for this type of rezone, and I'm talking about the 80 acres going into RR1, which I know that is not what is the request now, but that petitioner would have been told in no uncertain terms that what they were requesting was not wanted or planned for this area, and if they proceeded with the request, they would not have the support of the planning office, let alone the people of the community. I asked Jeremy yesterday what Mr. Love wanted to do with the property that would require such a dense zoning of 80 acres. And Jeremy stated that he had no idea. He said, "We don't ask that question." Those were his exact words. And he then said that if the rezone was approved, that the slope restrictions and road requirements and water issues, that there was no way he'd be able to build 80 homes, and if that in fact was his plan. And that is not the point. The point is it's opening a can of worms, and if that RR1 zone on 80 acres was to pass, it would then set a massive, believable precedence that would change the nature of our small community, which is exactly what we don't want to happen. And when I spoke with Mr. Love a few years ago, he indicated just what he did here tonight, that he wanted to build up on the hill and maybe a house or two for his kids. And I believe that was his intent, and I'm sorry that there was a misunderstanding, but I believe it's incumbent on the planning office to ask the questions and then guide the petitioners to what they can and can't do according to the plan. And to do otherwise and to offer up the convenient solution as the rezoning of the entire 80 acres is just dismissive of the desires of the Richville community. Thank you. I also have a letter here that Richard Wiscombe wrote. I don't know if you want to, each of you, I've got a copy for each of you if you'd like to have it, or if you'd like me to read it.
If you hand it to me, I can read it into record.
I would just like to clarify, when the planning staff is looking at our county code and the requirements, whether or not a certain application meets those requirements, then it comes as a recommendation. It isn't necessarily a personal opinion regarding whether the commission should recommend it favorably or not, but rather, did they check all the boxes and does it fit with our code, according to the zoning administrator, who is the person who interprets and analyzes our code against applications.
Is there anyone else with public before?
Anyone else before we read the letter that would like to come up and talk?
Go for it. We're here all
Yeah.
night, man.
Yeah, we're here. We- Yeah, go on.
We usually do
Go
these
ahead.
first, but they're usually submitted to us directly, so.
All right, my name is Ethan Clark. My family owns the neighboring property to this parcel that we're talking about tonight, and we firmly believe in private property rights and stuff, and being able to build your house and stuff. But I just want to come before and bring up some potential. We've had issues in the past with our family owning a farm, as that is an active farm surrounding the property. We are all summer usually spreading manure up there. We have hundreds of cows up there at times, and in the past we've had some issues with people who've built houses close to fields where we have, and they aren't happy about our farming operations. So this is more of just a public awareness thing, I guess. I don't know, but anyway, obviously we believe in private property rights, and just wanted to make everyone aware of the potential in the future of agriculture being neighboring houses and the problems that come up with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Just side note, as my farmer husband would say, it smells like money.
Yes, it's liquid gold.
There you go. This letter is from Richard Wiscombe, W-I-S-C-O-M-B-E, residents of Richville, Utah. To the Morgan County Planning Commission, one item of discussion tonight is to address Mr. Adams' Love request for a change in the zoning codes in the community of Richville. Letters were sent to nearby neighbors and an information board placed on the side of the road by the property where a request is being made. The information given indicates that zoning will be changed from what currently exists. I know from talking to Mr. Love that the information sent to neighbors is not what he is requesting. The request given by the county planners gives the impression that changes to the master plan and current zoning codes are to be changed. That is unfair to Mr. Love and to his neighbors. The community of Richville is a desirable place to live due to the rural setting. People want to live here because they want to live in the rural area we now enjoy. They do not want to change the zoning codes or the master plan because that is just how they want it to be. They want to join with current neighbors in Richville and enjoy the good life that citizens of Richville have established since the 1860s. The neighbors have already set the rules and standards for our community. The county planners in the past have brought in their own ideas of how we should develop our neighborhoods. They do not act on the voice of the people. The county planners should never present a plan that is not in conformity with the voice of the people. Several times in the recent past, the citizens have voiced their opposition to these plans that do not conform with decisions made by the community. Dissension has entered our community because of such plans. The county planners are being paid by the citizens of this community, and they need to abide by the rules and laws we have established. They should never assume that what is happening in other communities should be okay. They should only act on changes after the quote-unquote people have agreed on the changes. Division in our community comes because of plans that are contrary to what the people want. They are presented to the community, such as tonight, with false information. We as neighbors are asked to participate as soon as there is division. I hope that Mr. Love can get to do what he wants with his property if it is in accordance with current zoning regulations. Signed, Richard Wiscombe.
Thank you. Okay, this is the last call for public comment.
My name's David Stredbeck. I live across the street from said property, and I really like the Loves. Always have. And it was a misunderstanding, I think, on what we thought. One of my questions would be, not knowing all the, obviously none of us along the whole road want 80 acres up there divided into 1 acre parcels, and so if that's not what this is about, or if it doesn't allow it in the future, to open up to that, then we're fine. One of my questions was with the canal, like Steve had mentioned, there's a canal that comes through there. If you deed him this RR1 in the front of that right there where it's split, I don't understand what tunnel, I know tunnel vision because I've had that in the past, but I don't know what this tunnel zoning, what that implies or how that affects. But if you grant so many feet of, do you take out the right of way for the ditch, because that's all of our water that comes down through there? Would you count that square footage as part of his frontage because it comes right down, I believe, through the front of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, the public comment really isn't a back and forth. If you want to ask your question, they can close the public hearing and then we can try to answer.
We can address it in our discussion.
Would that canal, the footage of the canal be taken out if you granted 250 feet back up onto that property? There's a question.
I'll answer the question after they close the public hearing to follow state statute for public hearings.
This is just to allow you to make a comment saying you're concerned about the ditch and how it would impact, and we say thank you, and then he'll address it
We'll
afterwards.
address it once we close the public hearing.
Well, I think, speaking for myself, I'm happy if he wants to build a home up there, or even 2 homes up there, or whatever he bought the property for. It's his property. We bought the property across the street from the same original owners, and so we do have some issues right there with many, many homes. And if that's not the case here tonight, then great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I think one more time.
Any more comments? Okay, I'll take a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion by Member Little
Second.
and a second by Member Bishop. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are out of public hearing. Okay, any discussion you wish to address the canal?
Sure. The canals convey water across properties. The water is typically owned by an agency or a company. Those water rights are important, and they need to be protected through the subdivision platting process. It would be treated as an easement. The square footage would not be deducted out of the lot size, but it would be treated as an easement. And they would have to get a letter from the owner of the canal approving either undergrounding it or they'd have to bridge over it.
Thank you. As far as your question for tunnel zoning, it's the rural residential 1 acre zoning that runs along the road with usually A20 or another zone behind it. So it's, and like we said, it's not a standard, and we maybe need to change that in our county code, but approximately 250 feet back from the front property line, the RR1 zone will run. Okay, any more questions for the applicant or staff?
I'd like to ask the attorney of the law
Or attorney.
on this side.
What's your question?
I'm just curious, Janet, and I've watched proposals come from the planning staff for a long time, and they're always in favor of whatever is there. Is that a direction coming from legal to the staff?
That hasn't been a direction from legal, and we've had some recent discussions about maybe changing the wording of it instead of saying recommending, because I think that's been the typical practice throughout the state is the planning commission says they recommend. But I think what they're ultimately doing, and I fully understand recommend becomes confusing to everybody. But what we've been discussing recently is instead of saying recommending, stating it meets the requirements of the general plan, of our ordinances, of our code.
So I'm curious why would they recommend 1 acre zoning? Explain that to me, please.
So when you look at the ordinances, and Josh can talk more specifically to this, but they're looking at the overall character around the surrounding property. And I think one of the major things is the tunnel zoning kind of cut this property out for some reason. And so it is consistent with the zoning of similar lots along this route and in this area. So that's one of the things that they're looking at is it similar to the other characters of the surrounding property? If it conforms with our general plan, and Josh can speak more to it. But, so those are the things they're looking at. And it's not, I personally am in favor of this or not, but does this application fit within the constraints of our ordinances?
So, can I ask one more question? How would
Sure.
they ever come up with 1 acre zoning on 80 acres from that perspective?
So,
I can let Josh speak to that.
All right, that'd be great.
so first and foremost, somebody has the right to apply for a rezone on their property regardless
Oh,
of.
that's my question, Josh. Who asked for it? Was it Adams or did the staff put that?
So my original conversation with Adams Love a year and a half ago talked about continuing the tunnel zoning down the property because it had skipped those properties. When he submitted his application, he just put in request for rezoning to rural residential 1 acre minimum. So we wrote our staff report. We did recommend approval. That was a mistake. I am not perfect, so.
That's all I wanted.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion for a motion? I think what the request is to extend the tunnel zoning along the frontage. And I think back 250 feet from the front property line.
So that won't work for Debbie.
Yeah, 'cause 200
Approximately.
approximately, because you have the 200 feet of frontage times the 250, and that's just a little over an acre. So the goal is to maybe to get it to be able an acre in that RR1 zone.
Help me understand, so if typically, right, if Weaver Morgan is saying in this part of the county, typically you would need 1.75 acres, and if they're going after RR1 to, I'm assuming, to create 1 acre lot, are
No.
we then,
So the RR1 would allow them to have the 200 feet of frontage. The lot size for RR1 would be 1 acre, but Weaver Morgan Health Department, because of their requirements, you won't get a 1 acre lot. But the remaining portion can be in the 820 and continue to have the split zone if they so choose.
So I have a question for Debbie. This application is presented here is completely different from what they're saying, is it not?
What they're requesting is less than what was advertised, and so it's still a decision that you can make without re-advertising.
I think we can make the correct recommendation, and that way it is stated specifically, not following what is currently written. Let me give it a whack.
Well, you're brave, thank you.
Is that a legal term?
Madam,
It is.
bushwhack, all kinds of whacks. Wackos, some sitting next to me. Madam Chair, I move we forward a positive recommendation to the County Commission for the Love Rezone application 24.071, changing the A20 to a tunnel zone RR1 along the, what's the name of the road? Morgan Valley Drive, approximately 250 feet back from the frontage of the property, based on the findings listed in the staff report dated January 9, 2025.
Okay, is that motion sound good? Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Bishop. Is there a second?
second,
A second by Member Murray. Any discussion on this motion before the vote? All in favor?
Is there any,
Oh.
sorry. Is there any reason, because I'm just looking at the staff report and the findings, I know Matt just listed that it says with future land use goals and the, looking at the area map, it's with agriculture. Is there any reason to notate that, or is it fine, like legally?
Yeah, we have a motion on the table in a second, so you need to act on that.
Yeah, well, we can have a discussion.
No, we can have a discussion. That's what she opened. That's why I'm
I
asking
think
a
you can have a
question.
discussion among us before we vote. We just need to, she just wants
I'm
to make
just
sure that
asking
the findings.
legally, yes, are in line because it says future land use goals and the future land use map calls for that land being agriculture. So I just want to make sure we're covering bases. That's all.
Legally,
That's
yes.
probably a Janet question.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Member Maloney, yes. I think legally, as long as they refer to reasons articulated within the packet, we are okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But there's nothing in the staff report referencing what we understood the application to be that could cloud the issue or come back and
No, the
cause
findings, no, the
problems.
findings still hold for our new motion. So if there's no more discussion, take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. The next item is group homes use tables code text amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We'll give a minute for some people to leave.
Sure.
Does it say this is the most crowded I think I've seen it over the night?
Keep going, Jill. We'll let you whistle a little bit.
Why anyone doesn't want to stick around?
Yeah, I know.
We're so exciting.
This is the exhilarating part. And we'll ask you to move away from the doors because microphone picks up your conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Okay.
Madam Chair, with this being the first code text amendment of the year, it's going to be the easiest code text amendment for the entire year. Because what this is piggybacking off of the group homes code text amendment that was approved on December 17, 2024. And what was discussed by the county commission in that meeting was a simple, some edits to the code that should have gone along with that text amendment, but because of our lack at that time of code that conform with both state and federal statutes, the county commission reasoned that we should just adopt that ordinance and take care of the things that should have gone along with that ordinance at a later date as soon as possible. Tonight being that soon as possible date, and the directive coming from the county commission to staff to draft this ordinance being simple strike-throughs, and changing the designations to group homes to align with the code that was adopted in December. We're happy to answer questions, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff?
And Jeremy, on page 3 of 3 of it, there's the cross out of all the dwellings, homes, mobile homes, everything other than anything talking about the group homes. Why is that portion being deleted?
I'd like to point your attention more towards the columns that are MU160, F1, A20 rural residential. Those are designations for agriculture and rural type zones within the commercial chapter, or subchapter.
Somehow that table got copied and pasted by American Legal, and it it shouldn't be there. So
Thank you.
we found that and we're like, we're going to delete it.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Yep. Any other questions for staff?
This mirrors state law, right?
That is still the intent from the last ordinance to this one tonight.
And I would just like to mention that's a beautiful group home ordinance. Just Just saying.
Yes, gold standard, right?
It is. I am proud of that one. There's been some other ones like the side, but yeah, group home one's a good one.
Okay. Any discussion for our motion? This is
Do we
pretty
have to have a
straightforward.
public hearing?
Pardon?
There's a public hearing.
Yeah, we'll have a public hearing. Okay, I'm ready for a motion to go into a public hearing. Motion by Member Murray, is there a second? Second by Member Wilson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are in public hearing. Does anyone have a comment they'd like to make? Seeing none, we'll take a motion to move out of public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Member Bishop and a second by Member Little, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're now out of public hearing. Okay. I'm ready for a motion then.
Ready?
Yep.
I move we recommend approval to the County Commission of the Group Homes Code text amendment based on the findings listed in the memorandum dated January 7, 2025.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Murray. For a second. A second by Member Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Unanimous. Okay, we are on to business and staff questions. Does staff have any?
I just have a comment. So most of the applicants or individuals that I meet with who I talk to and tell them that their recommendation or what they want to do with their property isn't going to fly because of general plan, zoning, surrounding uses, or whatever, typically don't apply. That's why most of our recommendations going forward are recommendations for approval. But I'd point that out.
So you're screening them out. That's why we see typically.
Well,
Not intentionally, but they self-screen.
No, people have a right to apply. It's a God-given right. You can apply for whatever you want. But there is a logical process to analyze whether I'm going to recommend approval or not. And those people that I've talked to and met with, where I've said there's no logical reason to rezone that just because surrounding uses, etc., they typically don't apply.
Blaine, just as a developer, it's like what the first question I'll do is ask county, is this something that's going to fly? Because why even waste time looking at something that they're going to not recommend?
Okay, no other business for us?
Wants me to bring up and ask if you guys want to change the time to 5.
No.
Well, I brought it up, so.
Oh, no.
I think that answers.
It would be, there's nights 6:30 is about the time I get here. So I appreciate what Judy's asking.
Yeah. And it's not all Judy, truth be known.
Judy, you can always come at 5:30.
That wasn't fair. I apologize. Yeah.
Okay. But the consent here is to leave it to allow time for the commission members to get here. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. So I'll have it ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes.
I have a motion by Member Little
Second.
and a second by Member Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
And one abstention. Was not here by Member Bishop. And Maddie, thank you very much for attending remotely. We appreciate it.
Thanks. Is there a big delay or did it work okay?
Work good.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're fine. Okay, thank you. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Member Little, second by Member Murray, all in favor?
Aye.